this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable. Josuke and Yuya contend with the Master of Fear, Teranosuke Miyamoto, who has a powerful stand known as the Enigma, with the ability to trap people in a slip of paper. As if that's not enough, Rohan Kishibe has one hell of a monkey on his back. While Teranosuke Miyamoto is not the strongest character in the series, he certainly has an incredibly devastating and powerful stand. However, it does have some key weaknesses. However, these weaknesses are very specific, and honestly, I didn't expect that Yuya Fungami was going to be the guy to save the day. It seems like every single douchebag that Josuke and his friends run into end up becoming an ally in some sense. Hopefully Yuya is going to be instrumental in the defeat of Kira Yoshikage, but that's a story for another day. This week's episode of Diamond is Unbreakable follows Josuke and Yuya as they do battle with Teranosuke Miyamoto and his stand, the Enigma, which honestly at first I wasn't all that impressed by. I felt that it was too similar to Kira's father. I thought that it was basically the same thing, that he could operate only within the space of a photograph or a piece of paper, but no, his entire stand revolves around the fact that he actually scares people, looks for that response, and when they're in that moment, he can trap them in a slip of paper. And whenever it's an inanimate object or something that's not alive, he can just instantaneously trap it. So he actually has a lot of interesting things in these pieces of paper. He can summon a car, which just so happens to come with its very own driver, fire, and even a frigging gun. A lot of the tension in this episode came from the fact that Teranosuke was trying to trick Josuke into show some form of fear so that he could trap him in the paper. And eventually that does happen with Josuke getting captured, but he leaves him with this incredibly badass and manly message, which is, look, if you're gonna trap me, you might as well rip up this paper and kill me, because if you don't, I'm going to come back and kick your ass. This is a very important fact. Anything that gets trapped within this paper can be destroyed by simply ripping it up. He actually demonstrates this by showing that he has a bowl of ramen which is stuck in a piece of paper. He rips it up, the bowl cracks, everything inside is destroyed, and it's basically just sort of like a nasty reminder of what can happen if you get trapped by his stand's power. The biggest surprise of this episode, though, is that Yuya Fungami is the freaking hero. That's right. He actually steps up to the plate, pulls his big boy pants up, and manages to save Josuke. The way he does it, though, is absolutely ridiculous. This is one of those scenes that could only work in JoJo for how incredibly insane it was. So, Teranosuke is trying to drive away in his cab, and suddenly he's picked up by Yuya Fungami. He decides to trap himself inside of a piece of paper so that he can't be found, and this is all clearly a trap set up for Yuya. Now, Yuya opens the door. Suddenly we learn that he's actually able to trap fire inside one of these things. Teranosuke decides to up the ante when he reveals that he has Koichi and Josuke's paper, and he's about to throw them into a paper shredder that he also had inside one of these slips of paper. As soon as they start to go in there, Yuya starts to freak out because there's no way that he's actually going to be able to reach in. Except if he's actually transformed into paper himself. And when he's actually hit by Yuya's powers, he starts to get sucked into the paper shredder, but he now has the ability to grab both Koichi and Josuke, pull them out, they manage to escape, and my god, do they look so freaking pissed. Koichi in particular, who unfortunately doesn't really get to do too much aside from stopping Yuya from actually moving, but that's when Josuke comes in and just completely wails on this dude. So much so that he actually reverses his stand powers, transforming Teranosuke Miyamoto into a living book. And he ends up becoming another one of those weird mythical items that you find in the town of Morio. A book so legendary that people claim you can actually hear it talking. That's Miyamoto trying to escape. I honestly thought this guy was going to stick around a little longer. He seemed a little more ominous in terms of his villainy. But nope, he's basically just another one-off villain who got his ass slammed by Josuke and his friends. The other story in this episode is just as ridiculous. We go back to Rohan and the architect who is at his house who desperately does not want his back to be seen. And Rohan manages to trick this guy because apparently there's this conveniently placed hole in the floor covered by a carpet that he walks into, falls down, and Rohan gets a good look at his back. When this happens, suddenly this hinged door actually opens up on this guy's back, and all of this blood just explodes out like a freaking bloody volcano, and that's where you get to learn that this stand is actually independent, and it attaches itself to hosts. The deal is, though, if somebody actually ends up seeing the back, it's going to move on to that person, but it'll result in the user being killed. So now Rohan is going to have to desperately try and find a way to get this weird, freaky little monkey off of his back. By the way, in the actual subtitled version that I was watching, they refer to this stand as the Cheap Trap. But again, like many other stands in the series, due to copyright reasons, its name has been changed. You can clearly hear that its name is Cheap Trick. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable? I'm so glad that Yuya was useful. I thought he was just going to end up being just a one-off douchebag character who wasn't going to be helpful at all, but he was completely instrumental in saving both Josuke, Koichi, and even Josuke's mother in this episode. I thought that was a really big deal for his character, and even Josuke had to acknowledge, yeah, Yuya was pretty badass. When that dude's, like, door back thing opened up and all that blood started exploding out, I just kept shaking my head going, what the fuck is going on? Where is this going to be heading? And then when you saw that weird, creepy little imp crawling up on Rohan's shoulder, it was just scary as hell. And it's really funny because now you're going to be watching Rohan run around town, desperately making sure that no one is going to be able to see his back. For if they do, they are screwed. This week's episode was a lot of fun. Just like the previous episodes, it's managing to be incredibly creative and unpredictable. At least for people who don't read the manga. I don't read the manga of JoJo, so all of this is completely new to me, and every single week always just manages to surprise me with how crazy that it can get, and this week's episode was a great example of that, with some really great action scenes, some really satisfying moments from Josuke and Yuya at the end of the episode, some pretty cool action, and some great stand designs. Not only is the Cheap Trick stand look really cool, but I really loved the design of Teranosuke Miyamoto's stand, the Enigma. They always seem to do this perfect combination of like humanoids and cyborgs and everything. And so this was a super solid episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable. I had no complaints with this episode right here. As far as I'm concerned, it was entertaining from beginning to end. So I'm going to give this week's episode right here a 5 out of 5. Yuya completely impressed me in this episode, and I can't wait to see more from his character as we get closer to the finale of Diamond is Unbreakable. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Before you guys leave, make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's episode in the comment section below. How is Rohan going to get the Cheap Trick off of his back, and what do you want to see from the rest of Diamond is Unbreakable? Thank you guys again for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave me a comment or two. I will see you guys next time, and as always, stay dandy, baby!